Well, welcome everybody. Glad to have you folks joining us. We appreciate you spending your lunchtime with us. We know that your time is your most valuable commodity, and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. My name is Cathy Lavoie. I am the current board chair of the Women's Resource Center. I'm super glad to see everybody here today. Please join in the chat. We're chatting about the top 3 qualities you find are most important to have as a leader, either for yourself as you lead others or as you look at leaders with whom you are engaged. Please do continue to utilize the chat box as things come to you. If you have not, and I think everyone has, but if you have not muted your microphone, please do that. If you don't, we occasionally have feedback or background noise that makes it hard. So if I see that you have become unmuted or not muted yourself and we're getting feedback, we may mute you for you. So go ahead and do that. Again, welcome. Glad to have everybody here. Want to make sure you know that this is a recorded event. Anything you say can and will be used against or for you, however we need to use it. Seriously, just an acknowledgement that we are recording this event. That makes it possible for us to listen, look later, and share it with other folks. Want to take a minute to recognize any elected officials we have and those running for office. I know we have Bob Bird here, and not sure if anyone else is on the call that is elected or is going to be elected.
Well, I'd just like to say hello, everybody. And Dejuana Bigelow is certainly a candidate since we're running for the same office, Burlington City Council. And just want to remind everybody that you can vote for 2. And there's going to be a primary on October 5th with early voting starting on September the 16th. And that'll narrow down the field of candidates from 6 to 4. So then on November the 2nd, you can vote for 2 more, vote again for 2 people of those 4. And I'll leave my web address in the chat box. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Dejuana?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am Dejuana Bigelow. And since you mentioned, I wasn't going to say anything, but since you mentioned, I am a candidate for Burlington City Council. Mr. Bird, Bob has basically told you everything as far as when the dates are and who we are trying to narrow it down to. After this primary, it'll be 4 left, so October the 5th is certainly important. And I'll say, if you believe in us and you believe in our vision, please come out and vote on October the 5th.
Great, thank you. That's a great reminder of the importance of primary elections. I think in the past, we as a country have sort of not been as active at that point in the political process as we need to be. The past few years have showed us what a pivotal time that is as we elect our officials to serve and lead us. Want to recognize our table sponsor today, our virtual table sponsor, Island Media Services, and Susan's gonna introduce Ed a little bit later. So we will jump on to our sponsors. Of course, our visionary sponsor is LabCorp. Sustaining sponsors are Walmart Supply Chain and Impact Alamance. We certainly appreciate these folks for making it possible for us to do what we do. Our supporting sponsors, Glenn Raven and Exceed Technology. And I'm going to pop it over to Barbara. Barbara.
It's okay. I've been called worse. It's okay. I'm Barbara. I'm with Exceed Technology. I partner with Michael Nelson, who's with Nelson Technologies, and we are the communication piece of the business. We help businesses with voice over IP phones, and if you need any kind of information, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to set up any kind of Zoom or phone call that you might need.
Awesome.
Thank you. And we love being your sponsor.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara, also known as Brenda. Major sponsors, a big thank you to Elon University, to Alamance Chamber of Commerce, Reagan or anybody? Doesn't look like it. Proponent Federal Credit Union, Always Best Care Senior Services. Let's see, I didn't see Samantha. Okay. And Cora Wealth Partners. Thank you to True Liant Federal Credit Union. Anything, Tommy or anybody? All right, and Prime Personnel Resources. And onto our corporate sponsors, Milestone Wealth Management, Twin Lakes Community, Katie Smith Photography, and Gilliam Bell Mosier. Great big thank you to all of our sponsors for making it possible for us to serve the women and the community here in Alamance County. We couldn't do it without you. Want to give a shout out to all of our supporters. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of the WRC, you have the website address here on the slide. Please go there to make a financial contribution. We also appreciate all the support of those folks we have who come in and help us with events and volunteer and provide other support as well. Big shout out to all of you guys. Want to give a shout out to my co-board members. It's a great team. We have a great board, working board. Everybody is so devoted to and dedicated to the women of Alamance County and the community of Alamance County, and I'm so proud to serve alongside these folks. Our next Working Women's Wednesday, join us on September 22nd. And I have to confess, I'm not exactly positive how to pronounce this last name.
I think it's Lindsay Reggae.
Lindsay Reggae. And the reason I'm confused is because it's W-R-E-G-E. So
Right.
It's tricky. I'm a good sight reader. I can sound out words, but that one's tricky and I don't want to get it wrong. She's with 321 Coffee. And again, that will be on September 22nd for our next Working Women's Wednesday. At this time, I'm going to hand the microphone over to Susan. Want to say again, thank you guys for joining us and for the commitment of your time to the betterment of our organization.
Thanks, Kathy. Welcome, everybody. We honestly thought we were going to be sharing and looks like we're still in the throes of this crazy 18-month ride that we've had with COVID in our community. So I hope your families have all had a good summer and are safe and well, and kids are getting back in school. And we welcome you to another virtual Working Women's Wednesday, and we're really glad that you're here today. Ed Meyer with Island Media Services just has been a blessing to our organization, and in more ways than one. But we worked with Ed doing a number of things. If you helped us celebrate our 30th anniversary this year, you might have seen some coffee mugs that had this great logo. And I don't know, I can't see what I'm showing in the camera and my screen all at the same time. But anyway, he did our 30th anniversary logo. We've got some great coffee mugs. If you're interested in a new coffee mug, reach out to Kate Meyer on our staff, who just happens to be his wife and business partner. She can hook you up with one of these mugs. Ed has just helped us a number of ways over the last several months, but you might be interested in hearing more from Ed. But he is with Island Media Services, and you wonder, how does that work? Branding, website design, logos, promotional items, all those things. How does it come under the umbrella of Island Media? And I'm going to let him talk about that. I'd just like to give him a big shout out. Thank you, Ed, for being here, for being our first table sponsor of this year. And we'd love to give you a few minutes to chat about your work, your business.
Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for letting me spend some time with y'all. I am Ed Meyer with Island Media Services. A little bit about me. I went to school for radio and television and started at a little rinky-dink cable television station way back when there were little rinky-dink cable television stations. Since then, I have been involved in all forms of advertising, print, which is mostly what I do right now, television, and for 14 years, I owned and ran an internet radio station. So what am I doing today? Well, I'm trying to help small to medium-sized businesses promote themselves. And how we do that is first off with graphic design and printing. We can print and design anything from business cards to banners to brochures. We've even done billboards. And yes, we do design things that do not start with B, like flyers and things like that. We design it, we can print it, or we can do one or the other. If you already have a design, you just need it printed, we can help it for you. If you need something designed for a website or some other type of graphic like that, we can help you with that too. The other thing that the other top thing we do is we do promotional products. So anything you could think of that you would want to have your name on or your company's information on, we can help you with, from apparel to drinkware, cups and mugs to, you know, just about anything you can think of. Of course, pens are one of the more popular things, and we can do a wide variety of pens. We just did our own pens right now. I don't know if you can see that. It probably doesn't look too well, but these are actually eco pens. They are printed with a plastic that is made from wheat husk. So it is not a plastic that is going to contribute poorly to the environment. Right now, for promotional products, we do have a special. We have special writing instruments, special drinkware, special bags that are no setup fees and free shipping. So if you're interested in that, I'll be putting some information down in the chat box in just a minute. But just wanted to let you know about that. And as Susan said, we also do websites. I don't know, is anybody or everybody here familiar with Janet Ickes? We have done both of Janet Ickes' websites, and we're in the middle of working on an upgrade for one of her sites right now. And we're also doing some small to medium websites for a few other local businesses in the area. So it's something we're excited about. I'm Ed Meyer with Island Media Services. Thank you so much for your time. I'll be putting some contact info and links to that special down in the chat. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Ed. We appreciate you and love working with Kate. I'm going to give her a minute to get our slides going again. There we go. That's the one I was looking for. So today is a pretty special day because we are kicking off Leading the Way. This is our season. Our fall season is starting now. And we want to know who you know that is leading the way. What women that cross your path are leading the way in Alamance County, because we want to present some awards to these women. Dejuana and Cathy Dusenberry, Dejuana Bigelow and Cathy Dusenberry are on our call today. They're our speakers, and they were the recipients of our awards that were presented last year. So Cathy Dusenberry was presented with our Founders Award, and Dejuana with our Rising Star Award. And so clearly her star is still rising because now she's running for office, which is pretty incredible. And they're helping us today talk about women's leadership in Alamance County. And this season, we're going to be in the month of September, starting next week on the 1st, we will be accepting nominations for women who are leading the way in Alamance County. And these awards are presented for women who are contributing in the areas of mentoring, community development, philanthropy, and business. We'll have a slate of judges that choose these. We may change it up a little bit this year. It may not be, we may not just be presenting 2 awards. So I don't want you to think about somebody that might have been nominated in the past and maybe didn't receive an award. I want you to really be open and creative and think about the women who are really making a difference where they serve in the community. And the date for our event is November the 4th. This is the date for Leading the Way. This is the date that the awards are going to be presented. Right now, we don't know if it's going to be a virtual event or a nice seated dinner. You know, COVID's not looking great in the community right now, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking to the choir here, but I hope you're all masked up and vaccinated as you can be, and that our community will again start to open up so that we can have some of these events in person. But again, our nomination forms and the requirements for our awards will be posted on our website on September the 1st. So you're getting a heads up to be thinking about who you can nominate, because we really need those nominations to come in and for you to help us share the word and spread the word about it so that women that are truly in the trenches can be recognized this year. Now I'd like to talk a few minutes about the Women's Resource Center and the work that we're doing in the community outside of Leading the Way. The first thing I'd like to do is share with you our team, because just like a lot of the women that we are serving, we too have been in transition this year. Many of you already know Kate Meyer, and ladies, you're all on the call today, so I'm going to ask you to raise your hand when I call out your name. So Kate Meyer is our Community Outreach Coordinator. She handles all the logistics for Working Women's Wednesday. This month, she's been helping out with a workshop, Women Connecting Women, but she does all of our outreach. She works with our donors. She's managing our website and our social media. Catherine Brown. Catherine, raise your hand. Catherine is our new client resource counselor. She has stepped in right behind Melissa Luck, and we're delighted to have her on our team. She came to us from Cone Health, where she was already doing resource counseling, but for seniors in the community. So she's stepping right in. She's familiar with the community, and our clients are really enjoying working with her already. Echo Bloom. How about raising your hand? Today is Echo's first day with Women's Resource Center. She is a social work grad student from Carolina. We're delighted for her to be spending the next 2 semesters with us. Next week on the 1st, we will also have a second social work grad student, and her name is Sheila Washington, and she will be coming from the joint program between A&T and UNCG. And so we're going to be really excited to have all of these folks on our team serving clients in the community. The Women's Resource Center is open with safety protocols in place over the last year. I'm really proud of this. We have worked with the city of Burlington and their CDBG funds to provide about $55,000 worth of rent, mortgage, and utility assistance into the community through our clients. We've still got about $60,000 that we are working through a list of people that Catherine's reaching out to, and her team, the grad students, will be assisting in some of this. People's lives have truly been stabilized through this work that we've done, and it giving out rent and utility and mortgage assistance, as Heidi knows, we haven't done in a number of years, but it was a pivot point for us last year, and we were really appreciative of the city of Burlington to work with us on this project. Also, I think the City Gate Dream Center and allied churches were a part of that. In the last fiscal year, which for us ended at the end of June, the 2020-2021 fiscal year, 55% of our clients reported an income of less than $10,000. 20% of our clients reported an income between $10,000 and $20,000 a year. Now, I'm just going to stop right there a minute and let that kind of sink in. Last year, we also served, to give you more numbers, I think the number was 292 clients through our Success Toolkit program, which included some of these that we provided written utility assistance, but it was also job support, resource counseling, financial budgeting, many of these services. These folks are really struggling in the community. They're down at the bottom of, many of you on this call understand Maslow's hierarchy of need. And if people are struggling for basic necessities, food, clothing, and shelter, it's really hard to get them to think ahead and plan ahead and work on soft skills and budgeting and things like that, because they're just looking to see where their next meal's coming from, if their lights are going to stay on, or if they're going to be evicted. And this is a lot of what we've seen over the last year. 76% of our clients in the last year reported receiving some type of government assistance. That's more than what we had in the prior year. It's been kind of averaging around 50%. So that's a pretty big increase for us. If you're new to Women's Resource Center or new to Working Women's Wednesday, you may not realize all that we do. We know that each woman who walks through our door already has a unique set of tools. Our program is called a Success Toolkit. We believe that our function is to help our clients to recognize their own tools, to polish them, to further build out their toolkit to meet their own personal goals. Our program focuses on education and wraparound support to providing a foundation for a sustainable life in this community. We empower women in various life transitions, including victims of domestic violence and justice-involved women. We provide goal setting, career and job readiness training, soft skills, financial literacy, and professional development with networking opportunities. Coaching and mentoring are key components of our daily work. We seek to develop the leader within each woman, and we meet them where they are. Women Connecting Women is a 6-part career series: personal branding, resumes, mock interviews. We ran that program this month, and tomorrow is the last day of it. These women have had headshots even because of Katie Smith Photography and her partnership with our organization. We had 10 women registered for this event, with 7 who have attended some part of it, either 1 or more sessions, with 4 of these women to have completed all 6 sessions by tomorrow. These women are navigating life transitions and are seriously seeking their next career move. They're talented, but they represent the name of this program, Women Connecting Women. They're engaged, they're sharing their own life experience, their own job experience, they're learning, they're growing. They're growing in self-confidence, and they're building their own unique support network, and they're asking for more. They want to know what else can they do for personal and professional development through the Women's Resource Center. Kate and Catherine have done such a great job with them. They're just hungry for more. And that's what my goal is for the programs and the clients that we serve. We don't want it to just be a one and done and somebody shows up and gets some rent assistance. We're always talking about your next meeting with our client resource counselor. We're saying things like, when you come in again, we're going to start focusing on these goals, coaching and mentoring. Next month, we've committed to taking this same group of women and leading them through some goal setting training and self-confidence training. They're so engaged, we don't want to let them go either. So we're going to continue this with them. You've all heard me use this quote so many times before by Arthur Ashe. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. There is no better mantra for the work that we do here at the Women's Resource Center. And given this last 18 months, most every one of us, even on this call today, is doing just that, aren't we? Starting where we are, using what we have, and doing what we can to move this community forward. You too can have a part in our work by referring a friend to the Women's Resource Center. Because likely, as I've been talking right now and telling you about this work that we're doing, somebody's popped in your mind and you've had that thought, I know Sally needs this. Would you give her a call and let her know to call us? Refer a friend, become a supporter, make a donation today on our website by also sharing our events, by attending our events and bringing a friend. But you can also support us by nominating a woman that you know who is leading the way. We're so grateful to our corporate sponsors who allow us to continue our work. I had a client share this quote with me recently. There is so much that you offer here at the Women's Resource Center. Your client resource counselor took my problems as her own last year. She walked with me every step of the way. You all know me. There's nothing that makes my day more than a comment like that. So this is a shout out to Melissa Luck, who was our client resource counselor through COVID. She served over the phone, over Zoom, on our front porch, and down at the picnic shelter. She hovered around cars in the parking lot when she needed a signature. She helped this lady find the leader within herself. And now we are cheering Melissa on as she starts graduate school at UNCG. So we are a part of her success story, and she's already been a part of ours and a part of these clients who were struggling so much through COVID. So I hope that you help me cheer her on. We miss her, and we're delighted to share our new team with you. And many of you have already been sharing comments on our screen today in the chat about leadership, about qualities of leadership. And you've seen in the chat all of those great comments and great things. But we want to start now because likely you came on the call today to hear from our Leading the Way recipients, these women who rose to the top last year and persevered through COVID and our first virtual Leading the Way. Cathy Dusenberry's actually been on our board of directors. She's served as our board president for, I think, 2.5 years. She was my right hand, my left hand, and sometimes she was that one behind me, giving me a kick in the pants. But she was an incredible person that we could honor with our Founders Award last year. And she helped many years on this committee, on the Leading the Way committee, and helping us put the beautiful seated dinners together and attending to all the details to what makes a successful event like that. We didn't get to honor them that way last year. and Dejuana didn't get to see the lovely room and be up on stage. And so we had hoped that we were going to honor them in person today, but apparently that is not to be the case. So we're going to continue virtually, not only honoring the recipients of last year's awards, but letting you hear from them what it means to be a leader. So first of all, the first thing that we would like to do, I'm going to ask Cathy to go first and talk for a little bit about who Cathy Dusenberry is, and a little bit about your background, your leadership experience. You had kind of a personal touch, I think, even in where the Women's Resource Center is located, and just some deep ties into our organization and in the community. So I'm going to stop for a few minutes, Cathy, and give you the microphone.
Thank you, Susan. That was quite a nice introduction there. And you know how much I hate public speaking, but anyway, I'd much rather be back in the trenches, bussing tables or cleaning up plant debris or whatever. But anyway, so a little bit about me. I grew up on a remote island off the coast of North Carolina. And the interesting thing is my dad moved us there when I was 3 years old because of the outbreak of polio in Wilmington, where we were living at the time. And so there were very, very few people down there. And I grew up having to learn how to entertain myself largely because there were so few people. But I went to a very small school. It was a public school. We had to ride the bus one way. It was an hour, one way back. And there were 12 grades in one building and one class per grade. So there were 18 in my graduating class from high school. And it was a challenge because we were barely a 1A school, which meant that our principal had to teach French to us so that we could be an accredited school with a foreign language, which got me absolutely nowhere in college when I went to take the language placement test. I went to UNCG for 2 years, but before that, I did want to say one thing. Our guidance counselor encouraged me to apply to governor's school when I was just finishing my sophomore year in high school, I'm sorry. And I really knew very little about it. It had just started just several years prior to that. And he kept insisting. He said, I think you stand a chance of getting in. And I was like going, no way, somebody from here. But sure enough, I did get in, and it was a life-changing experience for me because I got to see what the other world was like out there away from Topsail Island. And I got to meet people from all across the state who were so intelligent and so gifted in the arts. And it was just an eye-opening. I don't know how else to describe it, but it really did awaken me to possibilities that were out there that I would not have known about otherwise. But anyway, I did go to UNCG and I met my first husband there on a blind date. So don't anybody turn down blind dates. And he went to dental school, and I supported him while he was in dental school by working at Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And he ended up dying when he was 35 of a massive hemorrhage. And so I was left with a dental practice, a farm, 100 head of cattle, 2 children. Oh God, all these things. And so, I had to buckle down and get things in order and get buyers for the practice, get buyers for my farm, and try to figure out what in the heck I was going to do with my life. And then here came another opportunity, another blind date. And I met my second husband through a blind date, through a mutual friend of ours, and he was an orthodontist here in Burlington. And so we ended up getting married about in 1983, and I moved to Burlington at that point in time. And I had 2 children, he had 3, and they all lived with us. which was quite an interesting combination at the time. But anyway, my professional life has been mainly in the dental industry, I would say, because I've been office administrator for 2 dental practices, and plus raising family as well. But we've been very active in our church, and a lot of what my leadership roles have been through our church and through Women's Resource Center. And Susan was right. We were building the building where Women's Resource Center is located now on our church property, and there was a vacant spot, and somebody said, well, what are we going to put in there? And I said, how about the Women's Resource Center? Have we thought about them? Because they were at that point right across the street from the YMCA in a small house. And so everybody was like, no, because we knew Meals on Wheels was going to go in there. And we also have a furniture ministry through our church as well. But anyway, I approached that subject, and we approached, I guess Heidi was the head of the Women's Resource Center at that point. And so they were like, oh yes, we'll do that. So I do have to say, yeah, I did that. But you know, that's pretty much me right now. I'd love to hear more about our other contestant, or our other winner, I guess I should say.
In true form, Cathy does not like to speak in public. So I promised both Cathy and Dejuana that we would make this a conversation today. So Dejuana, we're going to turn it over to you and let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cathy, for going first. I appreciate that. Especially with you not liking to speak in public. I know how hard that is. I've had my share of stage fright too. So I definitely thank you again for leading like you always do. And what a great story. I felt, so much triumph. And I thought, like, what would I do? I had my first child at 35. So I can't imagine, having to losing my husband and trying to figure it out, So I definitely commend you. It happens every single day. It's definitely not just you, but thank you for being vulnerable and opening up and giving us some of your story. And thank you for all that you've done. I can't compare. I'm just a small time city girl. I was born and raised in Burlington. Been here all my life. I am currently now 39. I will turn 40 November the 3rd, the day after Election Day. So that's always a little challenging, and you kind of want your people to get in, but if they don't, it's a little sad. But here we are again. I'll be celebrating my 40th after the Election Day. About me, I was born to my mother, Edna Harris. I'm a single mother. I am the baby of 3. My sister and brother are 7 and 9 years older than me. I know what it's like when you mentioned the women, Miss Susan, and those stats, about 76% of clients are receiving government assistance. That was alarming, but it was also resonating. I grew up in that type of family. My mother did receive some assistance that actually helped get us by. Definitely not afraid to say that, but she was a woman who, I think she only actually made it to the 11th grade. And now that she's gone, I think about how it's not so much of degrees and, things that are like material, because that lady taught me and gave me everything that money could not buy. It was her life's mission to make sure that her family had the opportunity that she did not. So she passed away. We took care of her. We moved her into our home last year. She was in 2020, January. She was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 4. So my husband and I moved her into our house. I had always promised her, like, Mama, one day you won't have to work this hard. I see all you're doing. You're working 2 and 3 jobs, trying to take care of us, barely meeting ends meet. I'm going to make it my life's mission to make sure that you won't have to struggle again like that ever. So even though it's bittersweet that she's gone, but I am grateful that we did have that opportunity to make that dream come true. She did not have to worry, even with cancer and treatment and bills and things. I'm grateful to God that my husband and I were able to financially take care of her, to have extra space in our house, for her to come and live and we not be cramped on each other. But so those women that you mentioned, Miss Susan, that's my fight, is to help women, men, families that are in that situation, because I feel like it is my duty. I know all about not having it or not having family members to be able to reach in and help out. And I know that places like the Women's Resource Center really does sometimes the last lifeline. I truly, truly know that. And I think because I watched my mother all my life sacrifice, once again, to make sure that especially me had what I needed. And, she's seen great things from the beginning in me. And she would tell me, there's more out here for you to see. You got to go to school. You got to learn. You got to get a degree. Like, you cannot live like the way that I came through. So that will forever be, no matter how my economics change, no matter where I go, no matter, what position I'm in, my first priority will always be the women that are behind me, beside me, because that's how you do. You pay it forward, especially an opportunity where I grew up on Raw Hut Street, right here in Burlington. Thank God my grandmother bought some property, which actually helped raise us and make sure that we had a consistent place to live. But I grew up in an area where I now look back and I look around and I think to myself, like, what was the difference? So many women, so many men, didn't make it, didn't have the opportunity. And I will never count that, to me, that is a privilege, right? So paying it forward is everything to me. It will just always be everything to me about just giving back, giving those resources that I didn't have, giving those resources that my mom didn't have. Now we have now we have them, and it's all about passing them along. If somebody comes along the way and that needs the tool that you have, or you have the connection to help them, then you do it. You do the right thing. Stay humble. I love my beginnings. I'm excited about my future, but I love the beginning of actually how we started out. And that's actually one of the things that excuse me, I'm jumping all over the place, but I am a mother too. I have a 4-year-old daughter, Zoe. But the one thing I think about when this comes to my husband and I raising Zoe is, how do we balance that? Like, right? We can relate with the women that come into the Women's Resource Center. We can relate with, my mother worked for Glen Raven Mills. I was so proud to see that they're sponsoring the Women's Resource Center. She thought highly of them. She always bragged about how the owner, I can't think of his name, how back in the 90s when she worked for them for many years, how they took care of their employees, right? So that goes back to integrity. But it was a place, even though it was a meal, it was a place where she felt needed, she felt cared about, and she said that owner took care of his employees. So I can relate with the working woman too. But with my daughter, it's a sense of the balance, right? She probably won't ever understand the struggle that I went through or my mom went through, right? But making sure that she still has that humbleness, because it took her grandmother sacrificing for me so that I can get here and so I can take care of her. So I think it's very important, what to me in our family values is very important for our family, to be humble, to be grateful. So many women too. When we talk about the women of Alamance, even though my mom was working 2 and 3 jobs, I think about people like Miss Creech, my 7th grade teacher at turn time. She's now Story. She's Coach Story's wife, the one that coached football for Williams for many years. I think about people like her that also seen some things in me and would always single me out, give me that 5-minute encouragement time, just to tell me that it's some things that she see in me that, of course, I couldn't see in the 7th grade. But now looking back, Deidre Lee, I think she sits on your board now. Deidre Lee was my 9th grade math teacher. Same thing, mentors that just took me under their hands, under their wings, continued to plant those things they seen in me, and help them grow. Just so many people. And then down to community work, Miss Ernestine Lewis, you know, gosh, she's been in a fight for a very long time. I think she's very much, even though she shies from cameras and things of that nature, I think she's definitely done some great work. And she showed us, especially as an African-American woman, how to stand up. And not only stand up for yourself, you do it for others with no benefit, only because simply it's the right thing to do. My husband, I love him to death. We have been together for about 15, 16 years. I met him at Alamance Community College. He graduated from there. I earned my degree from the University of Phoenix. I work for Cone Health. He works for Sandvik in Mebane. So just now with, now becoming a candidate for Burlington City Council, is to continue doing what I've always done in the community, and that's just fight, have those conversations, especially the hard ones, about bridging, uniting, making sure that no one is left out. One Burlington is very, very important to me, and that goes across the whole city of Burlington. And just going back to those things, and just making sure that everybody has those necessary tools to do what they have to do. Again, Miss Susan, I can't think about it. Like, how can you ask somebody to save when they can't pay their rent? How do you ask somebody to come to a PTA meeting when they're worried about putting food on their kids on the table for their children? You can't get to that point of giving yourself to your community until you yourself and your family are taken care of. Those are basic needs, and it seems so simple, but it's so many around us that don't have that opportunity and don't have those resources. So enough of me. Back to the Women's Resource Center. I appreciate you guys. I really, really do. Thank you for stepping in, standing in the gap, and being there for people who have no other lifelines. Like, to me, you are the lifeline. If someone is humble enough to come to you and ask for help, they're desperate. They're desperate. So thank you guys for leading the way in everything you're doing here in Alamance County. I appreciate it. The Bigelows appreciate it. And I know our community does.
Thank you very much, Dejuana. That was a great introduction to your heart. I appreciate you and Cathy both sharing some of the same threads in both of your stories were part of my own personal story. And I think that happens here at the Women's Resource Center. People come to work here because they relate to other people and the problems that people face when women get through their transition period. They want to come back and they want to reach back behind them and bring somebody else forward. It seems to be a natural progression. You mentioned some women in your life, and I'm just delighted to hear that Deirdre is one of your mentors, because I can truly see that in her. She's just an incredible lady. Cathy, who were mentors for you?
It's interesting you should ask that, because Reed and I were laying in bed this morning and we were talking just about mentorship and mentors in our lives when we were growing up. And honestly, I didn't have like a special teacher or a special person through church when I was younger, because my parents really didn't go to church that much. I went with other people if I went, but it was just, my first job was with Blue Cross. My first real job, I will say, was with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And we had I guess she was our department administrator over our whole group that where I worked. And her name was Lucille. And she was a a real go-getter because she was the only female in an administrative position in all of the Blue Cross organization at that time. And so it was really crazy. Every meeting that we had with other department heads or anything, they were all men. And this was back during the late 60s and early 70s. And we all know what, well, not all of us do, but some of us do know what the atmosphere was like back then. And it was a different thing, but Lucille stood up to them. She was tough. She was hard. She expected a lot of all of her employees, but she was a class act. She wore heels to work every day. And of course, the rest of us didn't. And she wore business suits and jewelry and everything. And so, I mean, but she was, like I said, she was tough and she expected a lot of you, but she treated you fairly. And I didn't feel like threatened when you got on the elevator with her, as I did with other men sometimes. And so I always looked up to her, and I just kind of figured that if she could be tough, I could be tough too. And I think the toughness is and the challenges are what get you through life and how you handle those. But, you know, I would say Lucille was probably my main mentor. And then you've been my mentor, you, Susan. Because of the way and the grace that you handle everything at Women's Resource Center and all the issues we've been through since you and I have been working together there. And, you know, you are a really good leader and a good mentor in how things ought to be done. Even though I did have to kick you in the back a couple of times, but that's okay.
That's very kind of you. That was totally unexpected because I think of you as a mentor. Cathy's on my short speed dial list.
So anyway, you know, but it was interesting because I think now people put a lot more emphasis on mentorship than they did back when I was growing up. And even when I was going to college, you know, now they have like guidance counselors, and everybody has their own personal guidance counselor who guides them through and all. And I didn't have that when I went to UNCG. I mean, you were just kind of put there and like, okay, here's your class schedule, you know, go at it, you know. And so it's a whole different way of thinking about it now, I think, than when I was growing up. And so, and you know, my mother, I guess, was not really a mentor, but she was kind of a role model. She came to the United States from the Netherlands when she was 6 years old. And I think about doing that when you were 6 and coming to a totally foreign country that speaks a different language and everything, and having to incorporate yourself and your family and your parents and your siblings into that. And I'm sure that was difficult for her, but she did very well. She went to college and was an administrative executive secretary for a company. And, but, you know, just thinking about traveling on a boat I think they were in the cattle section down below board, and just enduring that when you're 6 and coming and then just making something out of your life from that. So I guess my mom too. So
that's amazing. My mom truly was my main mentor, I guess. And I never really thought about her as a mentor. She was tough, and she used the word tough a lot. She would say, you have to be tough. And my response was, I don't want to be tough. I don't like that word. I don't want to be tough. And it just was her approach as to how you have to get through this world. She too was a single mom, and we moved to North Carolina when I was 5 years old. So it was a little while before she remarried. And I can't imagine doing that in 1962. You know, she worked in a plastics manufacturing plant. She didn't finish 11th grade, I don't think, Dejuana. I think she only finished 10th grade. But I was really fortunate because she knew how to love a child. And that's pretty important. You know, one of the things when I told Dejuana and Cathy that we were going to talk about leadership and mentorship, and I'd love to open this up to our audience here together and hear from some some other folks about mentors that you've had and qualities that you've had. I've done some reading, and this buzzword mentors now, they talk about different types of mentors. Mentors that are experienced in your career path. They could be a peer mentor, not somebody that is your supervisor, which is kind of what I have tended to think about. It could be a temporary role. Somebody could be helping you with salary negotiation. It could be that they're more of an advocate, that they speak up for you or introduce you to others and open other doors in your career path. They're interested in you. They're invested in your success. So I'd like to just open it up for a few minutes and hear from some other folks. What other experience have you had with mentors and mentorship? All right, turn on some microphones here. You got to help us out.
I'll speak. Working under Cone Health, I was super impressed. And I think the difference is a lot of us who are mentors, you don't set out to really be a mentor. So you don't really probably know that you're a mentor to many, because your goal is just doing your job and doing the right thing. But the one thing I loved about Terry Aiken, he just left Cone Health. But the one thing I really looked up to him is when Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd were murdered. He sent an email out to every single Cone Health employee expressing his condolences and letting us know that he has many people working for him that are of color, and that his heart went out, right? It was super important to, one thing, love what you do, but a CEO understanding what the dynamics of how the employees are feeling because of what they just saw on national television or through a video. I think that was very brave of him. I'm sure, he probably got some backlash somewhere, but on my job, and COVID had just hit, and it was through a time where we were all trying to figure it out. I was deployed at several different testing sites throughout Cone. Now, keep in mind, I work in the office. I was like, what do you mean going to a testing site and helping and registering people who may have COVID? What do you mean? So that was different. But I will tell you that during that time, just getting that email and just knowing that the leadership of the business that I worked for, that he cared and he understood how his employees felt, how my husband and I felt at that time, of seeing that. And then I'm coming to work also having to deal with everybody, because in healthcare you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice in the matter of who you want to serve. You don't have a choice in the matter of helping the person that comes into your to the hospital or to your desk in a doctor's office. You have to do the right thing, and you're going to serve them. You're going to give them the same practice that you would give to anybody else. So that was just very comforting, knowing that I worked, and I'm so super proud of Terry Aiken. I'm sure that he does not know that that was like a mentor.
He's one of your mentors.
Yeah, I'm sure he does not know that.
Right.
But I was just so super proud. And I think one thing about leadership is making those calls and doing the right thing when it's tough. We can all do the right thing when it's easy. We all agree on it. You do it, right? But when you know that your peers, that your other fellow employees may not be happy with what they're reading, but taking that stance and letting your employees know, specifically the population who is affected, that I'm here with you, we are with you, you are our neighbors, you come to our hospital, you are our employees, you matter. And he urged us to get in the fight and be a part of doing what's right. So that's definitely through Cone Health. And then my boss, Glenda Tassett, she is phenomenal. I work on the float pool team, which means that I cover 148 practices. I can be at gastro today. I could be at cardiology tomorrow. I could be at urology next week. And so a part of that is her mentorship for us is teaching us how to go in and turn the hat on and off, know where you're at, be able to, look at the office, what they're doing, what their practices are, who their population is, who they're serving. That has to change every day. It's nobody going with me. I don't have a team where I walk into an office and they're with me, right? I'm going in there by myself. I'm the new person. They all work there. So she's been phenomenal at teaching us, how to know what we know. Because when you know your job, it does not change. I don't care what practice you go to or what office you're there to serve that day. When you know what you know, you have the knowledge, you have the tools to do your job. It does not matter which specialty office that you're at or even primary care. She's been extraordinary in making sure that we have the training, the tools, and especially with my mom. When my mom got sick, and that's one thing about being a leader too, I want to say. I don't mean to take up all the time, but we get so busy and our schedule is so full. I want to say what my mentor, my boss taught me was to set it down. It's okay sometimes to set it down. You don't have to being a leader, being a mentor does not mean that you are Captain Save the World. And for us, knowing when to set it down, she taught me. You only have one mom. She's going to be gone one day. We know that, right? You have to do what's best for you. I want to make sure that when you come back to us, and you have to serve our people, that you're wholeheartedly sure in what you're doing. You had that time to heal, and you had that time to be there for your mom. So I'm grateful that I didn't have to go back to Cone Health feeling like a failure because, hey, I had to take time off, or feeling like, hey, my whole team is mad at me because I had to step away, then it puts more burden on them. I think the world of her for stepping up and giving me the opportunity to lay it down. And that's one thing about mentorship too. You got to show people, if you're going to lead, then you have to show them how to take care of themselves wholeheartedly. Mentally, physically, emotional, it's all important so that we can give ourselves to others.
One of the qualities that I don't know that anybody's said the word or not, but keeps coming to my mind with some of the threads of this conversation is the word empathy. And that's kind of what you were talking about with Terry Aiken and understanding how somebody must feel. And I think I've written 2 quotes down: know what you know and set it down. I'm going to write those down and put them around my desk somewhere. I like that. Linda, I know that you're just itching to jump in here.
Well, Dejuana said something just a minute ago that made me think of a question I get asked an awful lot. And maybe I have a little too much confidence sometimes, but people want to know, at my age and all the years I've been working, where did I get the confidence? And it came from a mentor that I moved to New York City when I was 25 years old. It was like going to Mars from Mississippi, and to walk the streets of Manhattan. And I worked in the Daily Planet building, and I mean it was pretty intimidating. But there was one man who was my boss's boss's boss, and he and I became very good friends, just friends. And he taught me one of the most important lessons of my life, and it was that knowledge is power. And confidence comes from power. And that one of the most important things you can do, just like Dejuana said a minute ago, is learn everything you can learn about the products you sell, your company, your customers, the people you deal with, and the processes. I was having a problem trying to figure out how to get somebody to accept a project that I did. And he told me, well, you need to make sure you know where the numbers come from and understand the cost and understand why this is good for the company. And he said, And if you're convinced this is good for the company, show your confidence and move forward. And I did, and I got my project, and I learned one of the biggest lessons in the world, and that was that knowledge is power, and from that comes confidence.
That's great. That's great advice. I've also heard it said, and Linda gave me that same advice when I came here after she dragged me around for 6 months all over the county. But I had one of our sponsors, Randy Perkins, said, keep showing up. Just keep showing up. Even if you don't know somebody, if you don't know anybody, if you're not sure what you're doing, keep showing up. Anybody else want to throw in here on mentoring?
So I'll just jump in a little bit. I wanted to talk a little bit about, Susan, what you said about peer mentorship. And one of the things I learned working in healthcare is that that can be fluid as far as, and I'll just give one example. When I was in my residency for pediatrics, we would work, I was in the neonatal intensive care unit, and we would work with the nurses. And the nurses teach you a whole lot when you're in the neonatal intensive care unit, because they're there all the time. You come in for a month. And so if you are willing to listen, you will learn a whole lot. And having a mother who was a nurse, I knew that. I knew the nurses could teach me a lot. And so the nurses taught me how to put IVs in. They taught me all sorts of things. And then one of the nurses started doing a neonatal nurse practitioner program. And so she had gone from mentoring me on how to do an IV and how to tell when a child was in distress and all of that. And now I'm teaching her how to do a spinal tap, how to intubate a patient, how to whatever. And it was a really important lesson for me, because what I learned was that it's not the hierarchy and it's not static. Mentorship can flow both ways. And when we realize that, we realize that we can do so much more when we accept the help from people that we may not have thought were going to be able to help us, and they can accept the help from us. And so that was a really, really important lesson for me early in my career, is that we all bring something to the table, and we have, in different situations, we're either the mentee or the mentor. And that nurse became a neonatal nurse practitioner. And then when I came into Burlington, she actually came and worked at Burlington, and we were colleagues. You know, she's at Alamance Regional for a period of time, and we were colleagues now in the neonatal nurse in the newborn nursery. And I just, that's what it's all about, I think. I think mentorship is all about helping each other get further in our skills and our careers and our lives and what we're doing. So
it's a great way to put it. Great way. Anybody else? Cathy's put in the chat, helping move each other forward. So I had a few questions for our speakers today. Talk about a time in your professional career when you've had to stretch yourself into a leadership position. Cathy or Dejuana, who wants to jump in on that? When did you have to stretch? You might not have thought you were going to be able to do it.
Well, I can answer that one very easily, actually. Shortly after I had joined the Women's Resource Center board, I became a vice president, I think actually quite soon. And the president quit unexpectedly after about 6 months after I'd been there. And so they were like scrambling, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to leave? Are you going to? I said, well, you know, I'm next in line. I will do it. And even though I had absolutely no idea what I was going to be doing, Susan was all upset over what had happened with the board. And so I'm talking to her and she's like going, I just don't know what we're going to do. And I said, well, you know what? I'm just angry that this happened. And you know, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this somehow. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm not giving up. And so I ended up taking over the leadership of the board and just winging it essentially for a while until I really got to know how things worked. And so I ended up being chair for 2.5 years out of the 6 years that I was on the board. And it was an interesting time, but we got through it. We did get through it. And, you know, and I'm not always comfortable in a leadership role, as I've said, but, you know, I accept the challenge and just figure out ways that we can make it work. And I guess that's just it. And I'm a detail-oriented person, and I like things done correctly and the right way in the right order. And sometimes that's not always the best way, but that's my way, and that's my leadership gift, I guess you could say. And so,
Yeah.
So that works for me, and it worked for us, and we got through it. So anyway.
That's a great example. And I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's exactly how it was. She said, we're going to do this. And she took over in January. This is just a side note. And if you know anything about the Women's Resource Center, that's when the Herb Festival planning gets started. And oh, by the way, Cathy, you're going to be chair of the Herb Festival committee too.
Oh, great.
You're not just leading the board, you're now running the festival. So jumping in is exactly what she did. Dejuana, how about you?
For me, I will definitely have to say through this era of COVID, as I mentioned before, you know, working in healthcare, I work in the office, and my team, of course, if you think of it, we're a float pool team, which we consist of, I think, 4 or 5 office people and I think 6 CMAs. So when COVID hit, we were the only ones that was actually in a position to move. We didn't actually have one particular practice that we worked at. So of course, my team had to start the first testing site when they began testing the public, you know, for COVID. So we had that hands-on coming to your car, you know, right up on you with our PPE on, but it was just so frightening to know that, hey, you're here for COVID. We gotta, you know, I gotta have interaction with you. But the one thing that my supervisor reminded us of was that we all need each other right now. We're all nervous. We're all, you know, worried. We don't know what tomorrow is going to be like. But the one thing that we do know is that we have to stick together. You know, we were working in a time where it was very unknown. We didn't really know in the beginning, you know, how COVID was really passed. You know, was it really, you know, were the masks really going to help? Were the shields really going to help? And just imagine, my mother had already moved in with us, and she was having treatments at the cancer center. You know, that fear of, what if I bring this back to my mom? Like, you know, I can't do this. I can't put her at jeopardy. My 4-year-old, at the time, 3-year-old in jeopardy. But in healthcare and in that crisis of COVID and the unknown, we had to lead. We never thought that we'd be frontline and had to deal with a pandemic. But guess what? I think my team was the perfect team, because we were the only ones that know how every office runs within the whole Cone Health system. We were the only ones that could adjust really quick. We have to be leaders on our own anyway, because we don't have a boss. I may see mine maybe twice a year. I may see my teammates twice a year during our retreat. So every day we're on our own. And when you think about it, you know, we already had the tools that we needed to man these testing sites. And we were out there summer, full, you know, we're gowns on, mask on, shields on, in June when it's 90-degree weather, June, July through August. And then guess what? It got cold. We were out there in the rain, on the cold days, but we got it done. And eventually our numbers came down, and eventually some of our sites were able to close, and no one on my team had COVID. I still have not to this day, my family has never been affected by COVID. So I think that was a time when we definitely had to be brave, and we definitely, had to put the community and what we stood for, get to definitely go ahead and use those tools, use those qualities to make sure that the people around us were safe. Somebody had to do it, and it just happened to be us. But looking back now, I'm glad that we did it. I'm glad that Cone Health, also I would say this too about the company I work for. They never let their guard down. Even when politicians were saying, oh, go out, be around, now it's open, it's safe. I'm glad that they took the community and the people that it served, they put them first. And we never, ever, ever, ever let our guard down. We continue to wear our masks. We continue to encourage others to wear their masks. We were vaccinated. We encourage others to get vaccinated. I also ended up working, once our testing site closed, we ended up going to the vaccination sites. So that's been my whole 18 months. I did not go back into the office, I think, until this past December, or maybe even January. I've been out in the field, whether at a testing site or a vaccination site. But I'm proud of the leadership of the company that I work for. They kept us safe. They did the right thing. They stayed vigilant. They prepared for the second round. It's not, it didn't shock us. So I appreciate them when the world was saying, we didn't need masks, you can go be around your loved ones. I thank them for also, once again, taking that stance and putting us first and encouraging us to do the right thing.
Appreciate that. What you've been through, being on the front line like that is really pretty an incredible experience, given what you were going through with your mom and your own family at the time. Courage, I think, is one of the qualities of a leader, and Cathy's demonstrated courage in her career. You certainly have, Dejuana, in yours. Lynn Stubblefield took on running the Women's Resource Center prior to my coming here. And that took courage. It took courage for her to be in a man's world in New York City and stepping out in a sales business career that was normally a man's kind of environment, I guess. Other thoughts from anybody else on your leadership path? Any of the things that we've talked about today? Other questions for our speakers? So I've got one more question that I want to ask them. And if you think of something while they're talking the last couple of minutes, you're welcome to put it in the chat. What are you doing now that excites you? We're still in the throes of this thing, right? And Dejuana's still working on the front line, and Cathy's actually retired, but I know her pretty well, and I know that she's busy, probably as busy or busier with her volunteer work than she was when she had a family raising kids and everything. But what are you doing now that excites you, Cathy? Give us a little hope here.
Well, Susan, that we've just come back from a driving trip to Michigan. So that was pretty exciting. But being able to travel again, although on limited basis, agreed. But we have 2 children and 6 of our grandchildren who live in Colorado. And a couple of those we haven't seen for almost 3 years. So we were able to fly out there this summer and see them and be with all of them. And so that was really great, especially with kids that are, you know, teens and early 20s now, and a lot can change in 3 years. But and also having some time to address some art projects that I enjoy doing. I have a studio that I don't spend nearly enough time in, so being able to do that now that I've retired from boards and working, and but I'm still on committees at church, so that still continues. So in fact, I'm getting ready to go meet with a bride because I'm a wedding director or consultant for our church, and so I've got a meeting with a bride this afternoon. So things keep on going.
Dejuana, what about you?
For me, I'm excited about church finally opening back up. We have, my church is Clinton Memorial.
Oh, look at there. That's something to be excited about.
We go to Clinton Memorial here in Burlington, and we have been closed since COVID. I really have missed the worshiping together, the whole togetherness of being with other believers, and just having that church relationship and that face-to-face. So I'm definitely looking forward to being with my church family. Hopefully we are able to. We're starting with the outside, but it's still good. As long as I'm on church grounds, I'm okay with that. I'm feeling very hopeful there. I'm feeling very hopeful about Burlington. I'm feeling very hopeful about the people who are continuing to step up and those who have now stepped up. I think as a community and as a thought of togetherness, in my opinion, at 39, I think this is the most that we have been united. And that gives me hope. It gives me hope for my daughter, who will start school next year, who will go through the public school system. I think the future is good. We've all had to be there for one another. 2020 taught us is that, hey, you do need somebody. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many resources you have. I don't care how much knowledge you have. We had to all be together, and we had to stick together. We all needed someone. So I'm hopeful, and I'm praying that we continue to move in this direction. I have loved throughout this whole pandemic of seeing organizations come together to help other organizations. I'm proud of the work that the Alamance partnership did for the children who needed laptops, and filling that gap and making sure that the kids, you know, had the right material for the virtual learning. I'm hopeful about the teachers who are stepping up and they're demanding what they want and what they deserve. You know, teachers, to me, they create doctors. They're that first line that tells you that, hey, you can be a doctor, and this is what a doctor does. So just all around the community, I am actually, truthfully, wholeheartedly hopeful that we'll all continue to work together and that we'll continue to be there for one another.
Those are great comments. We appreciate the courage that you have as a woman stepping out and even running for office. I think Bob Bird has jumped off the call. He's a regular here at Working Women's Wednesday, and we always invite local politicians to join in at our in-person meetings and on Zoom, and just, you know, tell us who they are and what they're doing. So you do Center. We're a nonprofit. We're nonpartisan. So we can't tell you who to vote for or anything like that. These ladies today are here because they were leading the way last year in Alamance County, and they were recognized and recipients of our Founders Award and our Rising Star Award. And so I hope that this has been beneficial for everybody who's been on the call today. I've certainly enjoyed the conversation. Dejuana, introduce us to your little girl. We see her sweet
She's
little
just
face.
itching. She did not want to not stay in the den. This is my little Zoe, or my husband and I get so used to saying my, but it's our daughter, Zoe McKinsley. She is 4 years old.
My eye.
Can you tell them hi?
It's
Say,
nice
"Hey,
to meet you, Zoe.
everyone."
Very nice to meet you. Catherine.
My eye burned because I hit my pillow on my eye.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
We'll
no.
fix that.
Catherine on our team has a little girl that's 4 as well. So lots in common here today.
Good
And
luck, Catherine.
I hope
She's
you
such
all,
a cutie pie.
I hope you all have got something that you can take with you that's inspired you a little bit, made you feel a little bit more connected. And I hope you all stay safe and join us again next month. The speaker, Lindsay Reggae, is, excuse me, a young woman who started a coffee shop in the Raleigh area while she was in school and at NC State University. And the people that she has working with her have disabilities. So I think you're really, really going to enjoy hearing her talk about how she got started and what they're doing in their community as well. Thank you for being here today. Go out and make it a great day.
Thanks, everybody.